Welcome, strangers, to Small Talkumentary, a show where we watch documentaries and then we get together and small talk about them.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to Small Talkumentary by My Mama Done Told Me. Oh, we're back.
We are back.
We're back. I'm
Happy
your
to be.
host, Jeff Kolaski. We are back with another episode of Small Talk. I already said that. Let me try again. I'm your host, Jeff Kolaski. I'm here this week with my mother. Hello,
Hi.
Mama.
Hey, honey. How are you?
Good. Thanks for watching this documentary and getting together and talking about it.
You are so welcome. I watched it twice.
You have.
I did.
You loved it.
We're going to talk about it, aren't we? Yes, I did.
And of course, not as always, but he has joined us before for this. He was on an episode or two, just one.
I was just on one episode of
Documentary proper.
and I am a huge fan of that show, so I'm kind of geeking out to get to do another one of these.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. You were also on the Harley and Katya episode of Small Talkumentary.
That is true.
Where you and I did not watch that.
That is correct.
Documentary. But everyone in the room here today watched this one.
Yes.
Before we get into what that was, which you already know because it was in the name of the title of the episode and you clicked play or you let it play into it or whatever you did, let's get a few things out of the way. Go and rate and review our podcast, My Mama Done Told Me, on your favorite podcast streaming service, whether that's YouTube or Spotify or Apple or Pandora or whatever you listen to. Do it there. If you want to connect to us, you can do that through our social media, which you can find in our
Shoy notes.
Or you can shoot us an email. Our email address is mymamadonetoldmepodcast@gmail.com. So this week, what did we watch? We watched a very short 40-minute documentary, which is very short for in the world of documentaries.
Yeah.
This was from 2022. It's an Oscar-winning documentary called The Elephant Whisperers. And y'all, this was gentle. It was beautiful. And it might have just snuggled its cute little hairy trunk all up into our hearts. Here's the trailer.
Kutan mana aja? Kita bah, berda, bani lagi, bah, kita bah, bani lagi, kita ni, oh angkanya, bani lagi, bani, kita ni bah. Nana gambis tinsa, ni nana gambis tinsa. Oi, ajar itu. Raghu bhaiya, ida. ಬಾ ಇದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾ ನೀನು ಬಾ ಇದ
அதுக்கு வழியில தான் வரணும், வேற இந்த மாதிரில வராது. பா ನಿನಗೆ ಅದು ಬೇಡವಾ? ಪಟಾಯ ನೋಡೋದ್ಕಿರ ಪಟಾಯ.
liked this documentary.
Yeah, I did too. There was something very almost melodic about it in
Mhm.
nature.
That's a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
Yeah, Mom.
It was enchanting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I wrote the words somewhat meditative. Like it
Yeah.
was almost like you were like just almost entranced by like
yeah.
the relationship between these animals and these humans. It was just really, really
Yep.
cool. And-
It kind of feel like I was on almost the verge of tears a lot.
Yeah.
Just watching them.
Right.
With her walking, along
Mhm.
with the elephant. Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. So the elephant whisperers. So the only thing I don't like about this documentary is the word whisperers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard word to say. Whisperers.
Whispers.
Yeah.
I want to say the elephant whispers.
Yeah.
Or the elephant whisper.
Ers.
But whisperers.
Whisper. Yeah, that's.
So the elephant whisperers tells the story of Bomman and Bellie, a couple in South India who take on the care of an orphaned baby elephant named Raghu. They're part of the Kattunayakan tribe. They are indigenous forest dwellers who have been living alongside elephants for generations. The film follows their journey as they raise Raghu, bond with him like he's their own child, and eventually face the painful moment of letting him go, along with the addition of another family member. It's a story about love, grief, tradition, healing, and wild ways that family can find us. This was directed by Kartiki Gonsalves, distributed and streamed on Netflix. All of the credit information will be in our showing notes. Let's get into it. If you haven't seen this documentary, you should go see it. There's really nothing to spoil here. This was a very drama-free, very twist-free, very calm documentary. It's a good watch. So rather than a spoiler alert, this is your alert that, hey, before or after you listen to this, just go watch it. Do yourself a favor.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Let's talk about why we chose to watch The Elephant Whisperers. So this is our first small documentary back on from season 1. So we are in season 2 now. I chose this one. It popped up on Netflix. It had like the little thing that said award winning, and I noticed that it was nice and short, which to me was like, hey, that's kind of nice, right? We're doing a small documentary. A short documentary would be good. I thought it looked fun, so I thought, why not? Had either of you heard of this before?
I had not.
No.
No.
Nope.
What'd you think when you saw it pop up on your calendar that this is what we were going to watch? What were your predictions? What were you thinking before you even dove into it? Nick?
Well, I guess one thing I didn't think was that it was going to be, so deep in the woods, like away from civilization. I was maybe picturing something rural, but maybe not to that extent.
Right.
So I was greatly surprised by how beautiful that was and the cinematography that went into that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my other expectation was I was going to like it. I know it's something from when I was a little kid. Elephants were my favorite animal. So
They're
it's just
cool.
like, I was very excited about that.
Yeah.
Good. Mom, how about you?
Same thing. I love elephants, and just the fact that it was about elephants excited me and drew me in, and I didn't have to know anymore. It's like, yeah, I'm watching it. No problem.
Yeah. This is a no-brainer.
But it far exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
I think I thought it would be a little more, I don't know if the word is clinical, but like, okay, they're whispers, or they're in some kind of a set fake habitat for them, not just like Nick said.
Yep.
They're right there in India in the jungle.
They're actually looking up into the hills of the wild and going, oh, there's one and a mama and its calf
like when they found that
beehive,
beehive thing.
Oh, that thing was crazy.
That
was insane.
Was insane.
Yeah. So let's get into that when we talk about our standout moments, because I do think there's a few scenes like that deserve to be talked about. But I'm going to give a few details to our listeners who may not have watched this and just want to kind of hear about what's going on. Quick question for you guys, though. What language did you watch this in? Did you watch it in their native language, or did you watch it dubbed?
I watched
it dubbed.
dubbed, and to be honest with you, that's probably why I gave it the ranking I did. Well, we'll get into that later,
Yeah.
but that was one thing that was just a little bit distracting about it on this. I thought that the dubbing was distracting because it was
They talked
directly
over.
over top of them
It
talking.
talked over them.
That didn't bother me, really. It
So
didn't seem like it bothered me that
It bothered
much.
me a
Yeah.
lot, so I turned it to their native language
I didn't know you could
and
do
just
that.
read the subtitles.
Mm.
I thought it was really cool that way. It was almost even more serene
Mhm.
because you're hearing their native tongue. You're not getting the overlap, because I started it that way too. So my suggestion, if anyone hasn't watched this, is watch it in their native language. I don't remember what language they're speaking, but it's there's something really cool about hearing it that
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
I can see that would
Yep.
be. So I have to watch it 3 times.
There you go.
Yeah. I am going to rewatch it that way then, because
Yeah.
like I said, that was probably my biggest complaint about it.
Yep.
Mhm.
They did the dubs really weird.
Yeah.
They did.
I didn't mind that at all. I
Really?
felt like it felt very first person, and it felt like, I knew what they were doing. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously they're dubbing, that's a
Mhm.
translation kind of thing,
Yeah.
but it didn't bother me because I just thought I can understand what they're saying. And
Normally it
was
seems like
kinda cool.
when dubs happen, they
There's a lag, right?
well, not necessarily lag, but they cut out most of the original language, so you're
Mm.
only hearing the dub
Mm.
or very quiet of the original language.
Mm.
This, it sounded like it was two on
Yeah.
top of each other, which is why I changed it.
It didn't bother me, but
Yeah.
I'm glad.
So anyway, The Elephant Whisperers follows an indigenous couple, Bomman and Bellie, who are caretakers in the, I'm going to butcher names for some of this, but the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve in southern India. They are tasked with raising an orphan baby elephant named Raghu, who was found alone after his mother was killed. The film documents the hands-on care required to keep Raghu alive, including round-the-clock feeding, bathing, and emotional support, and shows the close bond that develops between the elephant and his human caregivers. As Raghu grows, a second orphan calf named Amu is brought into their care. While Bellie begins to focus more on Amu, Raghu starts to show signs of independence, and eventually a decision is made by the forest department to reassign Raghu to a different caretaker. And that's kind of the only spot where there's any like kind of drama, quote unquote, in that. And we'll get into that a little bit. But Bomman and Bellie are not given much say in that matter. The handoff is sudden, it's emotional, and the couple must adjust to life without the elephant they raised from infancy. The documentary includes quiet scenes of daily life in the forest, from foraging and cooking to ritual and rest. This it shows the routines of caring for wild animals in a protected environment, gives viewers a glimpse into the couple's relationship, both with the elephants and with each other. Throughout, the film avoids narration and unfolds primarily through candid moments and conversations. So, let's talk about some of our standout moments in this documentary. Mom, what was the most standout thing to you about this film?
It's hard to put
One of them.
one little thing, but the relationship between Bella and Bowman, I absolutely adored them. I wanted to know them. She had such a sense of humor.
Yeah.
If there was a few times when she made, jokes, and that was really cool. And they got married I think when they got married, it was really cool. They dressed the elephants up and painted their faces, and they wore, flower necklaces. And, it was just, the whole thing was just so beautiful. And when they were walking, had their wedding pictures with the elephants in the picture.
Yeah, of course.
They were
their kids.
Yeah. And he would, like when Bowman said, who's the best elephant? Who's
Those are the things
best
we say to our
one?
dogs and cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he says, whose darling are you? Whose darling? He was just, I don't know if that's what he was really saying in his native tongue, but it was something very enduring like that, and very intimate and very close. And the whole thing was awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed kind of that character arc that we saw for those two.
Yeah.
You know, a relationship that started out as like a cooperative. We're just here. She's got experience with the elephant. And then they find out that they both come from, they both have suffered loss in their life. They're both older.
Mm-hmm.
Bellie, she shared that her husband was killed by a tiger in the forest, which caused her some PTSD going into the forest where she couldn't go for a long time. She was raising her granddaughter alone, and I believe they said she lost her daughter.
Yeah, her daughter died. They didn't say how she died, but her daughter had died.
Yeah, so she was raising her granddaughter. And I think Bomman was a widower as well, but I can't recall for sure. But I think, anyway, so that kind of shared bond with these elephants, they got closer and closer until, you know, they had this really sweet little wedding, like you said, and the
so cute.
elephants all dressed up with their chalk and their flowers, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of my favorite things about this as well. Nick, how about you, man?
My standout moment was probably when they did have to give up Raghu, because, I mean, it's obviously probably my least favorite part, because it was emotionally gut-wrenching, because it was like they were losing a child, and the emotion that you could see from the elephant, that it felt the same way. Where am I going? Why
are you taking me away from my
kept
family?
looking back and wanting to get back to them. It was, but I think it's my standout because it not only humanized them, the caretakers, but it also almost humanized the elephant, which I think was the point of the movie in the first place, because they're such smart creatures. And
I've heard so many things about elephants, and you know, one of the things that always stands out to me when I hear about elephants was and I don't remember where I read it or heard it, but I heard that elephants see humans as being super adorable the same way we see like a kitten or a puppy. Like they see a human as being super cute.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
You can't watch a film like this and not see that that's a real bond, a real connection. You know, believe what you want about an animal and you know, their equality to humans and all that. That doesn't really matter. What you can't argue, I don't think, after watching a film like this or after being around them, is that animal truly has connection with those humans and with each other.
Yeah.
They truly have care and love for them because of the way that they respond to those things, the way that Raghu would like wrap his trunk around her and, you know, sort of just interact with.
Yeah.
This is a giant animal. I mean, this is an animal that's going to be bigger than my car, than my truck, you know, and just as heavy or heavier. Yeah. This could kill me with a swipe.
There was that moment when Bella was sitting on the grass, and she said, "Don't you lay on me, you know, don't you lay on me, lay over here," and he did.
Yeah,
Amon did then lay over there.
Yeah, and of course the story was great. We've already gone over that, but visually, they did a really good job with this. I mean, we've seen some, you know, if you go back and watch Documentary, we've seen some really visually stunning documentaries. I think of like Fantastic Fungi, where that was shot in such high, vivid, you know, and that was beautiful. But this was on a different level because what it was showing wasn't just nature. It was the nurture part of life and nature. So you're getting a ton of, you know, you're seeing these cool monkeys, you're seeing
the monkeys
tigers,
are awesome.
You're seeing this insane beehive hanging off the side of a, which if you haven't watched this, they're going down there with little smokers.
And the whatever the conversation was during that part was how that was part of them surviving on the land. So they were probably getting honey for their cooking and their food. And I would never do that.
Well, you might if you were raised that way.
It was amazing.
Right, it
Biggest
really
beehive
was.
I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Some incredible landscapes. they really did a good
Yeah.
job too, showing the playfulness of the elephants.
Oh,
Yes.
I loved how they introduced Amu,
yeah. Oh,
where it was, just that little trunk hanging out of
Yes,
the
that's
thing. And it's
right.
like, I don't remember exactly what was being said, but they're going like, and basically we've got something new happening here.
yep.
No cruelty in this.
No,
No,
absolutely not.
Thank goodness.
There was no villains in this. There was, no big catastrophe. The sadness of losing
Yeah.
Raghu, but we didn't really lose Raghu.
Right,
We just
because they
wasn't
were-
living with him.
That
anymore.
was like really a saving grace for me at the end when he said, whenever I see Raghu, he'll come and say hello. And so he still got to see him,
right.
even though he didn't live with him.
Yep. Nick, what else?
Well, I'm just want to piggyback off of what you're saying,
Mhm.
some of the beautiful cinematography. I think they did a fantastic job. They had some of these big sweeping overhead shots, but then they'd come in like close range of, the whispers with the elephants, where you just felt like you were like in tight quarters with them. And the
Mhm.
juxtapositions of those shots,
Yeah,
I think really moved that film forward and
Yeah.
did a lot.
absolutely.
And then the shots of the kids playing in
That's
the
what I was
water,
thinking
jumping
that-
off their
yes.
backs and stuff.
And they
That
were
was so
spraying,
neat.
and then the
Yeah.
elephant was spraying him with
Yeah.
water, and
They're
they showed the
laughing.
little kids, and they were also discussing during that time how they were passing this care, the care for the elephants down generations, and so
Mhm.
that they would be taken care of for generations and
Yeah.
generations in the same way.
I did have one part, and we've sort of already talked about it, that frustrated me a little bit. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No,
No.
Why did they take Raghu?
Oh,
you and I talked about that earlier,
Right.
and
So they never really explained, and a lot of this,
mhm.
because of how short it was, and because of just how beautiful of a story it was, and how it didn't need all the explanation for a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
There's definitely stones that were unturned in this
Mhm.
film.
Yeah.
Mom, I know you mentioned when we talked earlier about not really knowing what that conservation was.
right,
I got a little bit of
Yeah.
information just from looking it up, but that wasn't told to us in the story. And it didn't need to be, really. I mean, for awareness purposes and stuff, maybe it could have been, but it didn't need it. The story was
well, I think
calming and
we
nice.
could surmise that they were employed by
Absolutely. Yeah.
this forestry place or
Right.
with this refuge. So this was a career for them.
Yeah.
It was their life work. They found each other in that and married and lived there together.
Right.
But it was their life work, and they were they were employees. So there must have been a good reason. Maybe they felt like somebody else needed to have an elephant to work with. And now, like
Yeah.
you mentioned it, you said he was now more out independent, and it was time for him to move on to another stage.
And that was the only thing that I could come up with,
And-
was maybe this couple, they knew they were the people you give a new baby elephant to.
Yeah.
Well, and they said they were the only two people.
Yeah.
They were the only ones that had ever raised
Yep.
2 elephants, 2
Mhm.
orphan elephants, and had them live and be
Right. Yep.
fine. So they probably wanted to free up their time so they could take another one if it became available.
Yeah, or an elephant needs to learn. They mentioned that an elephant needs to learn things from another elephant. There's
Oh,
only certain
true.
things that
Mhm.
an elephant can learn from a
that's true.
human. And so maybe wherever Raghu went was with another family or another group
herd,
that
yeah.
maybe had a herd that could get him better integrated into that.
Socialized into
Yeah.
it.
You
Mhm.
raise him until he can get with the herd, and then we got to move him over here for his
Yeah.
own good. There's no way that
But I
that-
wish they would have said that,
I
because
know.
it kind of felt
Yeah.
mean.
It did feel mean. I thought the same thing. I felt a little frustration there. Like, wait, he's still right there. Why does it matter if he's living on this plot of land or this
Yeah.
plot of land?
Yeah.
Only thing I could come up with was there had to have been a reason.
Yep.
I'll bet you that has to do with other elephants.
Yeah.
To do with the and how
would
is he ever
agree.
going to procreate, or if he's going to find a mate if he stays where he
Yeah, I don't know.
was? And I'm sure that they want that to happen for him.
Right.
So
I know the answer to this, but Nick, we'll start with you. Do you feel like this was a well-made documentary?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent made.
Told a good story?
Yeah, the story is, like I said, it just felt, even with animals, it was one of the most human stories I've
Yeah.
seen,
Mhm.
Yep.
which just incredible.
I
Yeah.
think the focus was more on the couple almost than it was the elephant itself. It
Mhm.
was more,
Mm-hmm.
their interactions
The
with
elephant
the animals
whisperers.
and with
Yep.
each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was excellent as well.
Yeah.
I am not a real documentary fan, especially if it's nature. I fall asleep,
Yeah.
but not this one.
When I think about storytelling, I am a little biased, or maybe a little bit, maybe not biased, but I think where my brain initially goes is a little askew to what real storytelling is. Because when I first hear the question, did it tell a good story? Well, there wasn't a lot of, actual laid out storytelling. This
Yeah.
happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened.
Mm-hmm.
But arguably, that's a more compelling story when you can tell so much in 40 minutes
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
this group of creatures,
Yeah.
both human and animal,
Right.
that are living in harmony, that really shouldn't be, quote unquote,
Mhm.
who says who should and shouldn't, but in nature,
Yeah.
generally you wouldn't have a human being raising an elephant, right? If left to their own devices, Raghu and Amu would be dead,
Yeah.
So we get that little strange thing, that strange partnership.
Mhm.
Right.
And then you're telling this story of their lives so sweetly and so concisely, and still you're telling this, but also letting us sit with it for a
Mhm.
while.
Mm-hmm.
That's such smart storytelling. You're not answering every question. You're not telling exactly where. You're giving just enough to let us know these two people have had struggles in life. These two people met each other and love each other. And above all, or what connected them, maybe not above
Is the
all, but
love for
what
the
connected them
the elephants.
was the love of the
Yeah.
elephants and their
Mhm.
care for them.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that's not good storytelling.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very good.
And I
it's
also
very,
loved when she told the little girl the bedtime story kind of thing about,
Oh,
about
yeah, I
how
kinda
that was
forgotten about
so
that.
cute. And just, she's passing that on to her
Mhm.
granddaughter and saying how she, I mean, there was this at the end when Bella talked about how she's no longer afraid of the forest, and
yeah.
she's now known kind of as the queen of the
The elephants,
elephants,
yeah.
and she was very proud of herself for that. And
She should
oh
be,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
she was awesome. I want to meet these people.
Right.
I want to know
Yeah.
them, and
Maybe I'll reach out to them and see if they would
yeah,
like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there. I don't know. There's something to me though that's so beautiful about seeing people that probably couldn't possibly be living any more differently than what we're living,
Right.
Yeah.
but to just see they're so much like us.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
it's that common thread
Yep.
that, like I said, I just love that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
did too.
Yeah.
I agree.
The biggest thing to what you just said, how do I talk to my cat?
Yeah.
Who's the
Mhm.
best cat? Who's a good
Yep,
cat?
I do the
exactly
same
right.
thing.
That's exactly how he was talking to that elephant. Yeah. So we are getting close to the end of our show. I only have 5% battery left on my tablet, so we're going to start wrapping up here.
Okay.
We've come to the time where we need to rate this documentary with an official small documentary rating. Each crew member scores the documentary on a scale of 1 to 10 items, with 1 being as bad as having to bathe in elephant poop water. And 10, you thought we would get the whole episode without talking about poop, didn't you, Mom?
It never happens.
No, never does.
No.
And 10 being as good as having a baby elephant as your best friend.
Oh my gosh.
The item that's used for scoring changes each week depending on the content of the documentary. We're going to be using mud baths this week as our rating item. So let's start with Mom. Mom, how many mud baths do you rate the Elephant Whisperers?
9 mud baths.
9. Tell me why 9.
Well, I would give it 10,
Mm-hmm.
except for I just felt like I wanted it to keep going a little bit longer. I wasn't ready for it to end.
Okay.
I wanted to go further with them. I
Mhm.
wanted to see more. I wanted to know a little bit more about the forestry department and what their actual jobs were and careers and all that. Just
Sure.
felt like a little more detail could have been there. Other than that, I absolutely loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. 9's a good score.
9's a great score.
Nick, how many mud baths?
I said 9 mud baths.
9 mud baths. You want to defend that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought it was a near perfect film.
Yeah.
So I would disagree with you. I think that for what they were trying to accomplish,
true.
it was the exact length it needed to be. They told the story they needed to tell. The cinematography was excellent. Honestly, just that overdub was my only issue with it. So
and I think you're right too. I just didn't want it to be
solved
over.
that. I was so dumb. I just thought that was. I didn't realize you could switch that to subtitles. I thought purposely they didn't want subtitles going across and messing up their cinematography. So
yeah, that's fair.
Well, we had closed captioning on too because I always have that on.
Yeah.
So I had that and the dubbing and the language.
So I gave this 8 mud baths. Which is a pretty high score for me. Yeah, it wasn't missing a whole lot. I mean, it had, I don't know, when I do this show, I'm a sucker for some excitement. And there wasn't a lot of really excitement in this one. So, I mean, that's really the only reason here. It was short, it was sweet. Will I watch it again? Probably not. I mean, it was nice, but it's not one that I'm going to go watch again. But I loved it. I watched at the exact right time. I told you before, it was almost like meditative. I'm with Nick that I think that it was the perfect length for what they were trying to do. If you start getting into too many of the weeds, you almost kill some of the magic in it. I feel like where, you get to kind of build this picture, it's sort of like, don't meet your heroes because the more detail you get, you almost start to learn a little bit more and you go,
I just like these people.
I know.
To know what happened to Amu and all that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. So anyway, after averaging everyone's scores, we got an 8, a 9, and a 9. That means our official small documentary rating for The Elephant Whisperers is 8.6 repeating mud baths. That's a lot of mud.
A lot of mud.
That's enough to cover a small elephant at least.
At least a moo.
Yeah. I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in to Small Documentary. As I said at the beginning, I hope you go and rate and review our podcast. Follow us on all the stuff. Keep an eye out for the next episode of My Mama Done Told Me. We'll be back soon to Taco Bell documentaries on Small Documentary, one documentary at a time. Nick, our guest, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad it was for this one. This was hopefully this episode felt as calm and relaxing as the documentary itself did.
Yeah, it did. It did.
With no elephants though. You can rub my rough skin if you want. I'm just kidding. You can't.
No.
Mom?
Yes.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
This was a great documentary.
This is a good one.
You've watched a few of these with us. You've done these, and I know sometimes you get tired of all the murder and all the stuff, and so do I, to be truthful. So I'm glad we got to do one that was truly
sweet.
It
was
really
sweet.
was. Yep.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you.
Yep. Until next time, this has been Small Documentary by My Mama Done Told Me. I'm Jeff. That's Nick Dolan. There's Mama Cat. We love you. We hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Love our listeners.
I love you guys.
I love you guys.
Love them.
We would love to know if you're out there. So
that's right.
Talk to us. Comment.
The only two people that ever talk to me are Nick and Mom.
Yeah.
What, Ma?
I just thought of something.
What?
Or what was it? Rolling a ball? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so
Sorry.
to the spot.
What's tough?
9
Yep.
forever.
26.
You all right?
What?
I asked if you were all right.
Yeah, I'm all right. I have an itch in my ear.
Okay, back to the toppy.